One of the most important things to be able to do when reading code or writing code is to be able to refer to the various objects that reside in Excel. So we must be familiar with how do we refer to a cell, how do we refer to a range of cells, how do we refer to a row or a column. For this I'd like to open up a new book, and I have one here, and I'm going to press F12 and save it as Chapter 4. And I'll make sure that it's a macro enabled workbook. And save. What I'd then like to do is record a simple macro. So I'll click the Record Macro button on my status bar, and I'll call this macro Label Months. And OK. I then simply want to record going to B2 and typing the word January. To the right of that February, and to the right of that March. And then I'll simply stop recording. If I look over in my Visual Basic Editor, I can see in my Modules folder that if I hit the plus, there's a module called Module 1, and I'll double click it to have a look what's in that module. Inside of that module is one sub-procedure called Label Months, which is basically going to B2, putting in the value January, going to C2, putting in the value February, going to D2 and putting in the value March. Now whenever I see the word Formula 1, R1, C1, that usually rings alarm bells in my head that that's most likely have done with a macro. What I would do if I was writing this is probably not use the term Formula R1, C1, but use the term value. I'm going to click on one of these references to Formula R1, C1 and press the key combination Control H. The reason being I want to show you how to find and replace in code, because we often do need to find every instance of a certain reference and change it to something else. Now the good thing about clicking on Formula R1 C1 before we went Control H is it automatically pulls it through to the find what. And then I can just say replace it with value. Now when you do a find and replace, you can actually find every instance just in the current procedure, in the entire module, or in the entire project. You've also got other options here such as matching the case and finding whole words only. But I'm going to just do it in the current procedure and replace all. When I do so, you'll see these three instances of Formula R1 C1 get replaced with the word value. And this message has come up, so I go OK. And there you can see it there, so then I can go cancel. So find and replace is really, really important. And using the term value is probably more realistic if you were to type the code. Now the whole idea here is that we can see quite clearly how cells are referred to, B2, C2, D2, and how we would write that and how we would put a value into each of those cells. But let's explore further. What I'd like to do now is go to my code file and grab a sub-procedure called Watch Range. I'm going to select from the sub to the end sub and copy that and put it into my Visual Basic Editor. The whole idea here is I'd like to step through this code, sorry I'm just tidying, and watch it refer to various parts of my spreadsheet. And I may even go into Sheet 2 for this. If I click on Sheet 2, click on Watch Range and then press F8, I can watch. This statement here, when I press F8, will select B3 to C8. And so that's how we would write when we wanted to refer to not a cell but a range. And then just to do something with that selection, it'll imply the interior color red. Watch out for the use of the word color. There's no U in color. This is an American program. And I'll press F8. So it's made that range red. If I want to select a specific cell, that's how I would write it. And that selected the cell B2. If I then wanted to put a value in that cell, like testing ranges, that's how I'd write that statement. If I then want to select A4 to A15 and apply an interior color, well, this statement actually, to be honest, this statement is actually applying an interior color yellow to that range without actually selecting it. So you don't always have to go to the cell. You can just immediately affect it from a different vantage point. So I'm going to press F8. So that didn't go to A4 to A15, but it did make it yellow. Now the word cells is sometimes used as well. And so this particular reference, cell 1, 4, when I press F8, is literally going to take you to row 1, column 4, which is D1. It's not my choice of how to write a reference to a cell, but it is used out there and it's important we understand that. And so when I press F8, it puts in this cell as D1. If I choose cell 6, it will literally go A1 is 1, B1 is 2, C1 is 3, 4, 5, 6, F1 is cell 6. So it's gone there and said this cell is F1. If you wish to select a row, always use the word rows. So even though you're selecting one row, you still refer to it as rows, plural. And so when I go F8, rows 2 is selected and the color blue is applied. If you want to select more than one row, then you have to put it in double quotes. So this is going to select rows 5 to 10 and apply a green color. This particular statement here is going to select the last row. Rather than say the last row is 1,048,556, what it does is it does a count. And if I rest on that count, it actually tells me 1,048,576. So that's the number of the row it will select, which is the bottom when I go F8. It'll then apply a black interior color. If you want to select a column, it's the same as rows. It's always in plural. So a row is rows, a column is columns. So always remember the S. And so in double quotes, this will select column B and apply a magenta color. If you want to select more than one column, then this is how you would write it inside a double quotes and apply a white color. If you then wanted to go to the last column, it would count that there were 16,384 columns and it would select the last column by pressing F8. And it will apply again a black color to that particular and then F8. What I'd like you to do now in the name of practice is I'd actually like you to complete Project 1 and Project 2 exercises.